This video is powered by As Always Entertainment. If you enjoyed this content, consider becoming a patron over on patreon.com/asalways for access to the Patreon exclusive podcast, The Kill Connor Clubhouse, early access to the Cinema Room podcast, being part of polls for future videos, and other early access material. With that said, please enjoy the video. It's been 4 years since Fallout 4, a game that when it released didn't do exactly what I wanted. I think a lot of people can agree. It's a good game, but it's not Fallout good. It doesn't have the Bethesda magic you can get from an Elder Scrolls or Fallout 3. It just felt lacking. So when The Outer Worlds was announced at the Game Awards 2018, and it was coming from the guys behind the original Fallout games and New Vegas, well, you could say it was out of this world. Sorry. It kind of fell off my radar for a while, until suddenly it was coming out in a week or so, and I hopped on that shit. The entire marketing process for this game was being a bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of satire here and there, poking fun at Bethesda sometimes. So what I hoped was that this game would be the Fallout game we deserve. One that's a really strong RPG and understands the magic and subtleties that made those games great. And I'm so glad to say they did exactly that. To me, this game is the Fallout we deserve. Obsidian have proved they can do Fallout better than Fallout, which isn't hard. But before you get at me in the comments, I don't mean this game is trying to be Fallout, because it isn't. It's trying to be its own thing, but it's using the style and genre that Obsidian helped to craft with New Vegas in its approach. And to me, it captures and understands what made Fallout 3 and New Vegas so compelling and interesting to explore and live in. But it does it in a different setting, with new lore and a totally different tone. And they do it with ease. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just review the game. I mean, everyone's already done that. It'd be useless. The point I wanted to make with this video is pretty much what I've stated in the opening, is that Outer Worlds is a better Fallout than Fallout. I mean, with 76 it's obvious, but I'm going to be using Fallout 4 as my comparison, as this is the game which tried to be a sequel to Fallout 3 and follow in New Vegas' footsteps, but didn't quite hit the mark in the same way. Also, before we hop into things, I thought I'd just let you know that if you want to pick up The Outer Worlds on PC through Epic Games Store at a discounted price, hit that link that I've got in the description, which was provided to me to give to you in a review such as this. So if you're interested, go and check it out. It'll help me out too. Alright, let's talk about general world exploration. Obviously, this game's setting is vastly different to Fallout, so it's a hard comparison to make, and even in the actual structuring of the open world, it's very different. It's a very different thing we've got going on here. In Fallout, we have a large open space, a wasteland to explore, whether it be Washington DC, the Mojave Wasteland, or the Commonwealth. In Outer Worlds, we have hubs, in a sense, mini Fallout-style open worlds across various planets. Some planets, most planets, even having more than one of these areas or settlements. I love this take on the RPG genre. It's something that we don't see a lot of these days, mainly because tech allows for us to have large, seamless open spaces, but there's something about these smaller, condensed, detailed mini-open worlds that are so appealing to me. I think mostly because everything should and does have a purpose to it. Nothing is there just to fill space in this open world. It's all built with something in mind, whether it be a location for loot, a terminal for lore, a character with a quest, and so on. Nothing is there just to pad out the open world, which, let's be real, even the best open worlds sometimes do. It felt like every area was purely the size that it was meant to be. They designed it with what they needed it for in mind. Another one of my issues in Fallout 4 was the sense of mindless padding to the world, meaning there would be useless buildings all over the place and you'd be walking for seemingly ages with nothing worthwhile in your path. Outer Worlds, on the other hand, gives you what you need and nothing more. Sometimes these hubs were relatively small, but it didn't feel too small because it packed that area with things to see and do, and it never felt like it was smaller than it should be. On top of that, it's hard to make this comparison, but I feel the variety in locations served this game very well in comparison to a Fallout game. I mean, Fallout 3 and more so New Vegas have very different areas of the world, allowing for variety in what you're exploring. Fallout 4 didn't really have that. It all sort of felt very samey to the point of even copy and paste at some points. But Outer Worlds takes the variety we find in New Vegas and takes to the next level by having various planets and stations to explore, all of which have their own vibe. Even different Terra 2 settlements have their own vibe, as Edgewater is far different to Byzantium, and coming across these different places was a joy, seeing the variety in locations and people really helping to immerse you in this sci-fi colonial setting. One of my major complaints about Fallout 4 was the fact that we had loading screens to enter and exit buildings. In 2011 with Skyrim, this was acceptable, but come on, in 2015, no way, that's not necessary, and it's one of those things that really holds the Outer Worlds back. Large buildings have load screens, and I know this is a smaller project, it's not a huge, big budget AAA game like Fallout is, so I can give it a little bit of leeway, but let's be real, in 2019, we shouldn't have loading screens to enter buildings. It immediately dates the game before it's even out. Loading screens between planets or regions, for sure, that makes sense, and you could even mask a loading screen from your ship to a planet with an airlock or something to fake a loading screen. But instead, I felt a lot of the times in this game I was looking at a loading screen. It was one of the major flaws that I found, is that if I was traveling between areas a lot, I'd have a small piece of dialogue, then I would see a loading screen to get to my ship, then a loading screen to enter my ship. I'd then travel to a new planet, leave my ship, buy a loading screen, enter the city, and see another loading screen, and then have another piece of dialogue before being told to go and do something else. It's the overabundance of these loading screens that get in the way of the general world exploration and immersion. Don't get me wrong, exploring these worlds is still fascinating, but it does get taken away from when you have all of these loading screens. Okay, that was like the longest section, so we're done with that now. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the gunplay. It's not exactly a huge part of RPGs like this, even Fallout 4, which tried to be more of an FPS. So I'd say Outer Worlds and Fallout 4 have very similar gunplay, both of which are better than the old Fallout games. It's the one thing I will give Fallout 4 credit for. It has nice, decent gunplay, and improved on everything in that regard. Outer Worlds feels very similar. I won't bore you with the details of crafting and weapon mods. It's there, but going into details would seriously bore the fuck out of anybody. That's not to say it's a boring gameplay element, it's just explaining it would be. Shooting feels satisfying, stealth is nice, and cutting people's heads off with a knife is fun as ever. I'd say the combat in general is probably indistinguishable from Fallout 4. If there's something major I'm missing, let me know, but honestly it felt very similar. Dialogue. Dialogue can be the be-all and end-all of RPG. I said that so, like, I was so enthusiastic. Dialogue. Anyway, dialogue can be the be-all and end-all of RPGs like this. I mean, look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Yes! I got in my daily dose of shitting on that game into this video. Did you guys know it broke me? Like, physically, it snapped my legs. I'm fucking gonna get my revenge one of these days, I'm telling you. Dialogue is the meat and potatoes of an RPG, at least in my opinion. You have to nail this, and Outer Worlds fucking does. Fallout 4 had this issue where dialogue options were limited to 4 vague emotional responses, and then your character would say something that wasn't at all what you intended to say, and you'd have to reload and try again.
You never should have stopped in Vildum. Nothing good comes from that place, nothing but cheats and swindlers and all kinds of wicked people. Is that the best you could do? Because I wouldn't bring my wife to a place like that. Not a good idea. Oh no.
Outer Worlds plays more like Fallout 3, New Vegas, Skyrim, in the sense that your character doesn't speak and the options are exactly what you'll be saying, and the NPCs respond accordingly, allowing for you to make the right choices and insert yourself and your voice into the character and that role. Like, you know, if you want to talk to a screen, I guess, and pretend you have friends. All dialogue felt meaningful and altered potentially how quests played out. It felt like at times you really had to try and be diplomatic if you wanted to save certain characters' lives or defuse a situation, and that was nice. You didn't get that in Fallout 4 since the dialogue options were basically on rails. This feels like much more of a callback to older RPGs, namely the Fallout game. Did you think I was going to reference those again? No, wow, I didn't. Full of surprises. I even found these random hidden dialogue pieces. Not hidden so much as not part of any kind of quest. My favorite was the dude on the Groundbreaker who's wearing the Spacer's Choice helmet. You can have a long extended dialogue sequence with him, either taunting him, making jokes, or asking if he's okay under the mask. It's really amusing. I gotta ask you about the hat.
I'm bound to satisfy headgear-related inquiries. Please send any complaints to our Consumer Care Headwear Division.
You doing alright in there?
Oh, I'm having a stellar day. And not just because I'm legally obligated to say so. Almost as stellar as a Spacer's Choice is affordable.
Can you see in there?
I can see all of the top quality merchandise in the Spacer's Choice catalog, which is available here at a reasonable price.
How do you brush your teeth?
Spacer's Choice regrets that we don't sell toothpaste at this time, but we're always working on delivering exciting new products to our customers. Sprat wash, mouthwash, and Mantafloss are among the exciting line of dental goods currently in development.
Do you miss eating solid food?
Don't miss out on these deals. You'll find none like them on all of Groundbreaker.
Overall, look, dialogue is great in this game. It's exactly what an RPG of this nature should be, allowing you to enter that role. Fallout 4 suffered from this issue where they tried to be a traditional Fallout game and having you take on a role, but at the same time gave you such a backstory that it was near impossible to immerse yourself in this game, and so none of the dialogue choices really matter. In Outer Worlds, you create your own backstory. Who were you on Earth? What kind of person are you? How do you tackle situations? And it works perfectly in that regard. I could tell from my first playthrough that this game has a ton of different outcomes. I chose certain ones, but it really depends on which options you pick in dialogue to what outcomes you can have. I mean, if we're talking choices, let me bring up this one I tested out, which was interesting. Minor spoilers for a companion quest. It's really nothing major, but I thought I'd warn you. You take your companion Ellie to see her parents in Byzantium. When you meet them, you find out they're complete cunts, and they've decided to claim on Ellie's life insurance policy, assuming that she was dead. Now you have a few options in terms of dialogue on how to proceed, but I was wondering, what if, like, I just killed them? So I fucking shot both of them in cold blood in their own home, and with their blood running down their expensive marble floor, I turned to Ellie and...
What in the void did you do? I didn't like how things went down either, but did you have to go and kill them?
By now, you should know I handle things my way.
That wasn't a problem before it meant killing my folks in their own home. You're on your own now. Consider my debt to you forgotten and cancelled.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Good luck.
Don't let the door clip you on...
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. So I reloaded and did it completely differently, and it's crazy that my game could have ended up playing out so differently without Ellie, and this is kind of a major consequence to your actions that you need in an RPG, something that Fallout 4 just didn't have. This is a perfect segue to talk about companions. All RPGs have companions, or a crew, or what have you. Outer Worlds was more like Mass Effect than Fallout in that regard. Fallout has people who can follow you if you do tasks for them beforehand, but they aren't really characters or people in the world. They sort of just exist to be your companion, and beyond that, they don't really offer a lot. Sometimes sex, but I mean... Outer Worlds has your crew on your ship, and each of them you pick up through either a main quest or a side quest, or just sort of in the world. It's not hard to miss them, but I did miss one of them purely because I didn't realize she was a companion and I couldn't be fucked with her quest, so I just moved on. Then at the end I realized she was a companion. But it's crazy how you can gain or lose companions so quickly, or straight up don't add them to your crew if you don't realize that they're a companion or you don't want them around. The companion system isn't synonymous with the main quest, and so isn't on rails, which is nice. Although these characters can interact with the main quest, and the main quest can affect their allegiance and loyalty to you, they don't actually impact each other. Like, you don't need any of them to finish the story, which is nice. This is the middle ground between like a Mass Effect or an Elder Scrolls and Fallout, which makes it feel a lot more real. There's depth to each of these characters, but they're also their own people. They don't just follow you around because the story says so. They can leave if you piss them off or if you tell them to. Or they could just straight up never join your crew, and I kind of love that. Like I mentioned, they all have specific quest lines to help you form a bond with them, developing them as characters and their relationship with you as the player, which is very Mass Effect-esque, something that Fallout has never done. I mean, Fallout 4 sort of had companion quests, but like, not really. Valentine did, I guess. It wasn't a proper thing, not like here. All companions are great, except for that one I never picked up. No idea what she was like, but considering I didn't bother with her quest, it probably sucked. I also love the way the world can react to them. So the first companion you get is called Parvati. She's voiced by Ashley Birch, aka Aloy, aka Chloe Price, aka herself in Saints Row 4.
If I get to kill all the aliens, then I'll come.
And I took her into a general store in Edgewater, and the owner reacted saying she's not allowed in here, and that opened up a whole dialogue sequence about her past and what happened, which was nice. If I hadn't gone into that store, or if I'd had different companions on, I never would have seen that, so it was a nice little touch. Stumbling upon these things is really great. Talking of stumbling upon things, you like that segue? Quests are a thing RPGs have, and the art of the quest is that you shouldn't feel like you're seeking them out, but more so that you're stumbling upon them while exploring. Maybe you get them by talking to someone in a bar, maybe someone comes up to you on the street, maybe you find a note on a dead guy, you know, the basic stuff. Now, Fallout 4 was really bad at this, at least in my opinion. I felt like half of the quests in the game were just Preston Garvey missions, and the other half were randomly picked up radio frequencies. Outer Worlds allows you to pick up quests without really thinking about it, usually by entering a a new location and talking to a person at the gate. It allows for you to start some kind of side quest. In doing so, you can talk to someone else, which might open another side quest, and the sequence continues until you have like 5 different side quests to pursue, and they all feel natural and systemic, which is what you want. On top of that, all of the characters feel memorable and distinctive, which is brilliant. In RPGs, things can get kind of samey with regards to NPCs, and I know it definitely does in most of them, even the great ones like The Witcher or Skyrim, and Fallout is no exception to that. Even Outer Worlds has it, but my point is the majority of these characters are memorable with their own personalities, lives, and problems that feel real, and that's something I really admire. Don't get me wrong, not every single quest is the best thing ever, but even the most mundane ones at least have a vague story from an interesting character to back it up and make it feel worthwhile, which is always nice. Although there aren't huge amounts of side quests, you aren't going to be here for 100 hours or anything, the ones they do have feel like they put effort and passion into crafting something that's worth your time, and that's all you could really ask for. Fallout 4 lacked in this regard, I feel, the way that quests felt like there were more tasks for you to do or put in for the sake of it without really being too memorable. Outer Worlds, I feel, just has the edge in that regard. Did someone say factions? No? Well, I fucking did, didn't I? Just said it there. Most RPGs have factions for you to build a reputation with. This is most common in Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Fallout 4 had the Minutemen, the Institution, the Railroad, and the Brotherhood of Steel, all of which had quests for them, and all of which could like you or dislike you, and that affected the main quest. It wasn't bad, it was good, made sense. But Outer Worlds has a fair few more, all of which have bearing on the main quest, and not just that, but companions' reactions to you, the way the worlds operate, who's in charge, how you're reacted to on certain planets or in settlements. Let's run down the ones that we've got. We've got the Board, Monarch Stellar Industries, Sublight Salvage, the Order of Scientific Inquiry, the Iconoclasts, the Groundbreaker, Spacer's Choice, Auntie Cleo, the Deserters of Edgewater, the Philosophists, C&P Borst Factory, Corporate Compliance Crew, the Marauders, and the Outlaws. It's a damn large amount of factions, and I love it. The way they all interact with you, the way your interactions with not just them but with each other affect all of their opinions on you, the way they intersect. Some are out to get each other, you can intervene and try and create truces to benefit yourself or the people of Halcyon, which is the setting, that's the system you're in. I forgot to say that before. Their effect on the main story with you being able to change who's in charge. The Board are in charge of all of Halcyon at the start of the game, a large corporate conglomerate, and it's up to you who's in charge by the end. But along the way, you can change who controls settlements, planets, laws, people. It's insane. The amount you have control over due to these factions and major players in these factions whose opinions of you shift the story and quest lines is insane. This is something Fallout 4 isn't even close to achieving, and it's easily one of my favourite aspects of the Outer Worlds. I look forward to genuinely replaying this, maybe on stream, and making entirely different choices to see how it affects the world by the end. It's something not a lot of games do, and certainly not this deep. It's probably the best part of this game. The sheer magnitude of choices you have seems endless on the surface, and I love it. Let's take things down a notch after bigging up the game a ton. Megaton? Fallout. There's a pun to be made, I'm sure of it. All RPGs have loot. I swear I fucking said that before. Was it my Greedfall video? With any RPG, you gotta get some of that loot. Oh, I mean, kinda. Was that what I was thinking of? Oh, fuck, it doesn't matter. Anyway, all RPGs have loot. Now, this is maybe a drawback to this game, but I'm not a huge fan of the loot system. I think Fallout 4 does it better. I like being able to just loot everything on a person. Like in Fallout, you can just take their clothes, then wear their clothes, go home to their family and kill them all. Or like not. I don't, that'd be crazy. But in Outer Worlds, you can't loot weapons and armor all the time. Sometimes you can, but I think they have to be like high-ranking enemies. Otherwise, you can just take ammo and weapon parts or whatever other little things they have on them, which is a bit more Witcher-esque, but I prefer the style of Bethesda games where you can kill someone and physically take everything on their person, which also adds to the armor system in this game. It's a bit shit, honestly. I mean, okay, it's not entirely bad, but the armor is just random pieces of armor and they all look very similar. Whereas in Fallout, I always felt like I was wearing unique stuff. I could craft unique stuff and have the very best, whereas in Outer Worlds, I felt like I was just throwing on any old thing and I didn't really care what it was so long as the stats were higher. And I don't feel like I had a lot of control over that, which was irritating, because it's nice to customize how you look at an RPG, even if you never see yourself. Which is another thing, this is totally unrelated, but why not add a third-person camera, the same as Fallout? Sometimes it's nice to just see your character, make that customization worth it, but I guess they didn't really bother much with the armor system, so it didn't matter a great deal anyways. That's one of the major things I'd change, make it more like Fallout in that regard, give me some proper customization and character personalization. Also, leveling is basically Fallout. I don't want to linger on this. I always bore the fuck out of myself when I start talking about levels and XP systems in games. I just don't want to have you all click off the video because I start talking numbers. It's not even fun. I don't like it. But the level system's pretty good. Not as in-depth as I think Fallout 4 is or its predecessors, but you do have a lot of control to which skills you're leveling up, especially when you get a skill category to level 50. You can then individually level up the skills within that category. You also have perks on top of that, which you get a new one of every couple of levels. It's not as in-depth as Fallout, but it's very similar. I just think it allows for creating specific builds very quickly, which might be good, it might be bad, you decide. And I mean, I think that's basically everything I wanted to mention, but I did want to mention this very specific thing that happened to me that made me want to compare it to Fallout. I was right at the end of the game. Don't worry about spoilers, I won't give context, but I had to enter this room, right? And every time I did, the game crashed, just fully broke on me. I found that if you shoot the guy in the room, you can enter, but that guy's our main character. I didn't just want to kill him, so I tried navigating my way around the room and entering through the back door. It still crashed. So I took to Reddit, and apparently, this is such a Bethesda type issue, but if you enter through the back door halfway, and then when your hand is glowing because of your disguise being removed, you can pause the game, go into your inventory, then come back out into the game, and you can enter the room without it fucking breaking. And it worked. And I don't know why. And that is the most Fallout thing this game did. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed my spin on this review. Wanted to give my thoughts on this game, whilst also somewhat reflecting on Fallout 4 and how this game compares. Let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy this? Do you think Fallout 4 is better? Let me know. Thanks to our Patreon producers, Josh Devillier, King Richard III, Smexy Dork, Elsko91, HBots12, I Got Big Shoes, and Seth. Thank you all for this continued support. If you want to join them and help support me in making more videos like this, then check out patreon.com/. As always, there's tons of extra stuff over there, but it's up to you if you're interested at all. And like I said, don't forget there's a link in the description to pick up The Outer Worlds on Epic Games Store on PC. At a discounted price down below in the description. Go and check it out. It'd help me out. Also, you can pick the game up. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.